Hello again. Before we start this video properly, I'd like you to take a moment to look around you, wherever you happen to be, and think about the vast amount of information you can infer about your environment. Now, close your eyes and focus on your other senses. What can you hear? Are there any identifiable smells? What can you tell about what you're sitting or standing on from the feeling of the parts of your body in contact? Animals can send signals that activate all these senses, and some can exploit several other senses as well. These different modes of communication have different characteristics that make them more or less effective for certain types of signal, and these differences are the main topic of this video. We'll start with visual communication, which is extremely common across animal groups and also highly diverse. Visual communication includes both permanent signals, such as bright plumage, and temporary ones, such as gestures or firefly flashes. Regardless of whether they are temporary or permanent, visual signals have three things in common. They're very fast, conveying information essentially instantly between signalers and receivers. They can potentially work over long distances, and they're restricted to line of sight, meaning their effectiveness and how easily they can be intercepted depends heavily on the environmental context. Permanent visual signals cannot be turned off in the same way as temporary signals, but either type of visual signal can be cheap or costly. For example, bright plumage may require large amounts of nutrients, such as carotenoids, and the elaborate dances performed by many species are often energetically demanding. The difference is that permanent signals are not usually costly to maintain, only to produce initially. Acoustic communication includes the familiar calls of birds, frogs, and mammals, as well as the less well-known auditory signals of other taxa. Auditory signals are fast and can travel long distances, like visual signals, but are always temporary, requiring constant energy to maintain. Unlike visual signals, acoustic signals emanate from their source, making them easier to eavesdrop. However, this also makes locating the source of the signal more difficult, and auditory signals are not blocked by obstacles in the same way that visual signals are. Olfactory signals, smells, are the third main mode that animals use to communicate over a distance. Compared to other forms of communication, olfactory signals are very slow. They're generally restricted by the movement of air, and thus require time to diffuse from signaler to receiver before any information is transmitted. This makes olfactory signals useless for time-sensitive signals, such as warning others about predators, and also makes it hard to encode information by producing several signals in quick succession. The slow speed does have advantages, however, as it helps reduce the locatability of the signaler. It's generally not possible to immediately identify where a smell is coming from, and while other animals may be able to follow the intensity gradient to find the source, this takes time. The major advantage of olfactory communication over other modes is its persistence. In good conditions, smells can signal for hours or days from a fixed location without any additional costs to the signaler. It's useful to think about scent marking versus singing as a method of claiming a territory. Singing can be exhausting for the signaler and ends as soon as the signaler performs any other behavior, while scent markings are simply reapplied whenever they start to degrade. A final important mode is tactile communication. This is important to many species, but is difficult to compare to the previous three modes because it can't occur across a distance, only through direct physical contact. Tactile signals are fast and temporary, like gestures, but are only between two individuals and cannot easily be blocked or intercepted. Tactile signals regularly occur during mating displays and fights, but perhaps the most common is allo-grooming, individuals grooming other members of the same species. Allo-grooming serves to reinforce hierarchies, maintain social bonds, and remove parasites, and isn't just restricted to mammals. It's also been observed in birds and social insects. Animal signals can also have components from several different modes. For example, courtship displays, such as those of the greater sage-grouse, incorporate both calls and specific movements, combining auditory and visual signal modes. This is referred to as multimodal communication. Human communication is primarily auditory, but visual signals are important too. You'd quickly realize that something was wrong if my gestures or facial expression did not match each other or what I was saying. A final important type of communication concerns signals which convey information not about the signaler or the environment, but about other signals. This is called meta-communication, and is most commonly used to indicate how a forthcoming signal should be interpreted. A good example comes from play-fighting behavior in carnivores, such as dogs. Adults will often initiate a play fight with a juvenile by first making a bow, dipping their head and forelimbs. This visual signal is not seen in other contexts, and its purpose is to indicate that any aggressive signals that follow should not be interpreted as genuine aggression. This facilitates practice of important fighting and hunting skills without the risk of injury. The next time you have a conversation with someone, think about the different modes of communication involved. How much of the signal are you getting from their words, and how much from their gestures, expressions, or from the surrounding context?